Hey everyone, my name's Kaki, and today I wanted to share a little bit about East Asian religious influence on the development and practice of martial arts in China and Japan. Oops, screen not working. Specifically, I'll discuss specific principles from Confucianist, Taoist, and Buddhist teachings and describe how those principles are incorporated into martial arts. Very broad scale, the overlap of these three religions is that they all promote personal growth and ethical conduct. And these are values in which I believe everyone can kind of appreciate when it comes to sport. But beyond that, each of these three religions support martial arts practices in slightly different ways. So Confucianism has influenced the structural components of teaching and learning martial arts, as well as provided a backbone for the ethical values a martial artist should follow, both on and off the mat. On the other hand, Buddhist values are implemented to influence the mindset of the martial artist and to promote calmness on the mat. Lastly, Taoism has influenced the physical action and the movements of martial arts. So Confucianist, Buddhist, and Taoist influence can be seen across the board in East Asian martial art forms such as Kung Fu, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, and more. First, let's look deeper into Confucianism. Confucianists value proper etiquette and manners, as well as adherence to societal norms, rules, rituals, as well as education, which we have seen in our study of the civil service examinations. Although samurai warriors identified with Zen Buddhism more, Confucian teachings heavily influenced the samurai fighter code of honor, as well as their methods of education. In adherence to the samurai code of honor, fighters should follow 7 main virtues of samurai, which include justice, courage, benevolence, politeness, honesty, honor, and loyalty. Confucianism and the samurai code has since promoted a moral code for martial artists who valued fighting skills equally with their own social responsibility and personal education. Beyond Confucianism, Buddhist principles are also taught to martial artists in part of spiritual and psychological preparation for fighters. The overall teachings of Buddhism can be generally summarized by the Buddha's 4 Noble Truths, those being life has inevitable suffering, there's no cause to our suffering, and there's an end to suffering, and there's a path to the end of suffering. To apply these concepts to martial arts, it's easy to think of suffering as the physical discomfort of fight. These noble truths are applied in 2 main aspects of martial arts training. The first is the absence of attachment to life. Aligned with the 4 noble truths, fighters learn to accept that life is temporary and therefore do not fear death as a result. This acceptance allows fighters to clear their mind of preoccupying thoughts and focus on the present moment. Secondly, martial artists are taught to act without goal. The fighter may become detached from the idea of winning or losing. They choose not to look at things in a black and white way, and they make actions and moves without the fear of consequences, but rather by going with the flow of the match. This lack of pressure reduces the stress levels of martial artists and therefore improves their fighting ability. Lastly, I want to discuss how Taoism influenced the physical practices of martial arts. One of the most prominent aspects of Taoism is the concept of yin-yang, which represents struggle and unity in opposing forces. Yin represents soft power, passivity, gentleness, and softness, and yang represents hard power, brightness, strength, and activity. Early martial arts styles were developed in the style of yang principles, relying heavily on preemptive attacks. These are now known as hard styles, and later soft style martial arts became more popularized, which is influenced heavily by the yin principles, and also as well as other principles in the Taoist teachings like Wu Wei and Ziran, which I'll discuss more later. Yin can largely be symbolized by water, so soft style martial arts use water-like movements, which are shapeless, soft, transformative, unpredictable in nature, and they often come in circular motions. Aligned with the passivity of yin, these styles of martial arts avoid direct confrontation with the opponent, but rather utilize the opponent's energy and inertia in the attack. Overall, the fighters taught to look for a path of least resistance in their moves. The other two most influenced Taoist concepts, which I mentioned earlier, are Wu Wei and Ziran. Wu Wei describes action through non-action as well as position through non-position, allowing the fighter to be elusive. Simultaneously, Wu Wei philosophy dictates that movements and strength are exhaustive, but rest, on the other hand, is replenishing. Therefore, a fighter should wait and rest for their opponent's actions to exhaust themselves before going in for the attack. Ziran, meaning spontaneity or naturalness, encourages the fighter to act intuitively on a hunch, so to speak, because in martial arts, pre-planned actions are less effective than spontaneous ones. Therefore, Ziran teaches fighters to follow the natural flow of the fight. To wrap things up, I want to leave you with a final piece of information. According to scientific studies, martial artists are some of the most tranquil individuals off the mat. And despite engaging in such a violent, energetic, and uncomfortable sport. So how can this be? Is it because of their Confucius, Buddhist, and Taoist teachings, or is it because the practice of fighting itself? Who knows? This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something today.